Start off with Grandma's Snowball cookies, and then I'm going to show you how to make one dough into a couple different cookies. We're going to make a Snickerdoodle cookie and a white chocolate peppermint cookie, and then I'm going to show you how to make a bakery style chocolate cherry covered cookie that is going to blow your mind. Let's get started by putting our softened butter into the bowl for our Snowball cookie. Today I'm using Country Crock plant butter for my cookies to replace the original butter that would be in Grandma's cookie recipe. And I need a whole cup, so I'm using 2 sticks. I'm just going to use a spoon to smush down my softened butter. I'm going to add into that the powdered sugar. This is one of my husband's favorite recipes because it's a little bit healthier and has less sugar in it than most of the Christmas cookies. So we just need to get this mixed together. You can just mix this up by hand with a wooden spoon, but it's a little easier if you use a hand mixer. So I'm going to do that today. Once you get the butter and powdered sugar mixed together, you can add the rest of your ingredients. We're going to go ahead and add in some vanilla and some salt. I'm going to give that a quick mix. The hand mixer is having a problem today, but it's okay. We can still make cookies. I'm going to add into that my nuts. These are walnuts that I've slightly toasted, and I'm going to add in my flour. And that's all there is to it. We're going to mix that up. We're going to switch out to the stand mixer in the next batch of cookies. Look at that. It looks a little crumbly, but don't worry. You're going to see that it holds nicely into the ball. And that's how we're going to make our cookies. So let's set this aside and we'll put it onto our cookie trays. I always line my cookie sheet with parchment paper so that I don't have to scrub the trays when it's done. I don't have to worry about my cookies sticking. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to use this cookie scoop, but if you don't have a cookie scoop, just take about 2 tablespoons worth of dough and put them on your tray. And these are not going to spread. They're going to stay in little balls. And when we're done cooking them, we're going to go ahead and roll them in powdered sugar so they look like little snowballs. This cookie has less sugar and it's got a lot of nutrition from those nuts. So it's a really great addition to any cookie box or any holiday cookie spread. One nice thing about these cookies is you can freeze the balls like this in the freezer and then just bake them when you want to use them. So you can really get a lot of your baking done ahead of time. If you want to give out gifts, you know, like the week before Christmas or something, you can make up all your cookies ahead of time and stick them in the freezer, and then you'll have fresh baked cookies when company comes over or when you want to give a gift to someone. These are going into the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. It's time to bring our Snowball cookies out of the oven, and I'm going to let them cool before I roll them into some more powdered sugar to make them look like snowballs. You can put several in there at once and then just give them a shake. A bit of a messy project, but it's kind of fun. The kids would love this project. So to make the white chalk peppermint and the Snickerdoodle cookies, it's all one dough. So we're going to mix that here in my stand mixer. I am going to use 1 stick of the Country Crock plant butter, which is a 1/2 cup. We're also going to use 1/2 cup of refined coconut oil. This is going to be my replacement for a shortening. Now you don't want to make a cookie with all of this coconut oil or it will make it a super oily cookie. But when you do 1/2 of the plant butter and 1/2 of the coconut oil, it does make a really good cookie. So to that we are going to add our sugar. And we're just going to mix this up until it's fluffy and it gets a little paler in color. You want to make sure you scrape down the sides so that it all gets mixed together. All right, look at how beautiful that looks. Now it's time to add our egg replacement. For that, I am going to use flaxseed. I am using ground flaxseed, 1 tablespoon per egg. I'm going to just put that right in there. You don't need to go to the trouble of making a flax egg. If you're curious about that, I did make a video just recently, and I'll put it here in the box or in the description box below, where you can see how I tried different methods of egg replacers, and this really works better than most. I just add the flaxseed and the water in together, and I don't have to worry about mixing, getting another bowl dirty. I don't have to worry about waiting 10 minutes for it to gel up. So we're just going to mix that in. Once that's mixed, I'm going to scrape the sides down, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in my vanilla and then my dry ingredients. So now we can add in the vanilla, and I spilled some vanilla into my baking powder. So we need to get all of that in there. We're also using cream of tartar, and you can get that at any grocery store. It makes a good textured cookie for this, and you'll find it in every Snickerdoodle cookie you ever see. And then there's some salt. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our flour. I'm just going to do half right now, and then I'll do the other half in just a second so I don't get flour all over me. We'll see if that works. Now you don't want to overmix your cookies, so I'm just going to get this until it's mixed together and starts forming a dough. Scrape down the edges. Make sure we have all of the flour mixed in. Okay, our dough is starting to form. You can see how it all sticks right to the paddle, and that means we are done mixing our dough. All right, so I am going to divide this dough in half. I'm going to put half into this bowl and leave half in this bowl, and we are going to add in some white chocolate and peppermint to this batch. And in this batch, I'm just going to make these into cookies and roll them into cinnamon sugar for our Snickerdoodle. So let's go ahead and mix in our fixins. So this is white chocolate. It's a vegan white chocolate by Enjoy Life. And I'm going to add in some of that. And then I'm also going to add in some crushed peppermint candies or candy canes. And then I'm just going to go in and mix this with my hands because I find it easier. And if I feel like I need more of something to make it look pretty, then I'll do that. Don't these cookies look fantastic? All right, I am going to put these on a tray and we'll be ready to go. Now these will spread, so you want to leave them a little, about 2 inches apart. So I'll do 3 in a row and then I'll do another 3. So if you wanted to get super fancy, you could really put some peppermint candies right on top for decoration, but I like things super simple, and these are really good the way they are. I am going to go ahead and do our Snickerdoodles and put them on the same pan. I'm going to freeze the rest of that dough so that I have it when people come over, and I always want to have Christmas cookies on hand for them. So for the Snickerdoodles, all we need to do is mix our cinnamon in with our sugar. And I'm going to give that a quick stir. We've got a nice dark cinnamon sugar because we want that to show up when we do our cookies. Let's grab our cookie scoop. And we just take our cookie dough and we put it right into that cinnamon sugar, roll it around, put it on our tray. Now this is the same dough, so it's going to take the same length of time to cook. Here's our next batch of cookies. We've got our Snickerdoodles that look beautiful, and also our white chocolate peppermint cookies. I'm going to put these aside and I'll show you how to make them into cute little packages later so you can give them to your friends. When you're working with egg replacers, the cookies are going to be softer than normal, and you're going to want to let those cool on the pan for as long as possible so that they don't fall apart when you move them. Now let's make our bakery style vegan chocolate covered cherry cookies. I had never seen this method of baking cookies until I saw it over on the Cupcake Gemma channel. They have a bunch of New York style bakery cookies, and I decided to make a chocolate covered cherry one because my family loves chocolate covered cherries, but it's super hard to find them vegan. So why not make a chocolate covered cherry cookie? Seems like a good idea to me. So let's get started. We are going to add our super cold butter to the bowl of our mixer. If you want to get a good workout, you don't have to use a mixer for this, but I'm using a mixer today. We are going to add our sugar. In a typical cookie, you're going to want your butter to be soft, and you're going to mix this and cream it really well. But today, we are just going to mix this until it turns into a crumble. So we still want big chunks of butter in here, and so let's get that together. You can see how our butter chunks are getting chunked up. Let's go ahead and do that just for a couple seconds more. Because my butter was super cold, I kept it in the freezer. After we get that just to where it's kind of in a crumble, now it's time to go ahead and add in our goodies. So I'm going to put in some plant-based chocolate chips. I'm using these today. I'm also putting in some of this dark chocolate. So I have a total of 1.5 cups of chocolate. And then I'm also got a cup of dried cherries. And this is what makes the cookie so good. I'm also going to add in my vanilla at the same time. So let's just give that a quick mix. We just need it somewhat mixed together before we add in our dry ingredients. Now this is our flour. Into the flour, I'm going to add cocoa powder, baking powder, and some salt. So I've mixed my dry ingredients together a little bit, and we're just going to dump it all right in. We don't want to overmix this dough. That's why we mix the flour and dry ingredients together first. This is supposed to come in a dry, crumbly dough. It's not going to be done yet because we have to add in something to replace the egg. So you see that? It's still very crumbly. There's still chunks of butter in there. And that's what we want. The next ingredient is 1/2 cup of aquafaba, or the juice from a can of chickpeas. I'm going to dump that in, and that's going to replace the egg and hold all this stuff together. So let's turn it on and just do a quick mix. It's starting to get hard to mix, but it's going to come together. And that is our cookie dough. It's still a little crumbly, but that's the way we want it to make these cookies just perfect. I am going to just dump my cookie dough out on the counter. Make sure all the dry pieces come together. So now, one thing about these cookies is the dough needs to be frozen. We're going to cook these cookies from frozen, and so we need to just gently pat these into balls. I feel like that's a good size. And you're not really mixing this, you're just patting it together. You want them all to be about the same size so they take about the same length of time to cook. Once you've got your dough balls all made, you can stick those in the freezer for at least 4 hours, but overnight or as long as you need to keep them in the freezer. The great thing about these is you always have cookie dough on hand. So we'll stick those in the freezer and we'll bake those off in a little bit. Okay, our chocolate covered cherry cookie dough is frozen. I let it sit in the freezer overnight, and so it's time to get these cooking. I'm going to cook 4 of them now just to get a couple of cookie boxes going, and I'll save the rest for another time. We just put the frozen cookie dough right onto the tray and put it into the oven for about 16 minutes. The chocolate covered cherry cookies are done. Don't they look delicious? They're big and they're fat. They look just like a bakery style cookie. I did not mention to you that you might need to flatten those cookies down a little bit. Sometimes when they come straight out of the freezer, they don't spread like they should. So I let them cook a little bit and I'll flatten them down, and this is what your cookie will look like. Here's one of my little cookie boxes that I want to give to my neighbors. It has all 4 different kinds of cookies, and it is fun to make. I like to use these old-fashioned cookie tins, the kinds they used to have when I was a kid. They're a good size. You can fit enough cookies in there to feed the family without having to make so many cookies to fill the box. You can also get these kind of little boxes, bakery boxes at the grocery store, or even just put a few cookies in a bag if you want to pass them out to your coworkers or something like that. When I'm making my cookie box, I like to line the box with parchment paper because it looks kind of pretty and it keeps everything clean. And then I like to individually wrap the cookies because the different flavors will get all mixed together. So your Snickerdoodles are going to start tasting like peppermint, and your chocolate covered cherry cookies are going to start tasting like cinnamon, and that's not what we want. So I like to wrap them up separately. I know some people like to make a super fancy cookie box and they're really pretty, and that's great if you have the talent to do it, but I don't. And I still find that people appreciate these little cookie boxes even if they're not as pretty, but they're delicious. If you are making one of your family's favorite holiday cookies and you want to know what kind of egg replacer to use, you need to check out this video. I tried 11 different egg replacers, so you don't have to, and you'll know which ones to use in your cookies.